In this episode, I'm going to actually just do a training session kind of uncut. Something that folk have asked me a lot in comments on my Instagram, on my YouTube over the last few years is, can you just show us a session, just a normal session that you would have? I'm filming this myself, so I'm going to have to move the camera around, so there will be a few cuts in it, but basically I'll try and show you a whole standard session. But I have to make a qualification. It's not really a standard session because I am recovering from an injury. I got some tennis elbow basically back in August, I think it was mid-August, and that's still ongoing, but it's a good bit of the way recovered, so I have actually started to boulder a little bit harder. I mean, the injury's not super bad. I have climbed E10 since I did it, but I haven't really been bouldering, so I really felt at about 70% strength level or something, and I having to be very conservative in my moves, so very, I don't know, just not confident on snatches. In each session I've started to feel a little bit better from a very low base. The first couple of sessions were honestly terrible. So I don't have a sort of particular session plan. I just want to have a bouldering session and I'll see how I feel during the warm-up, and then that'll dictate what kind of problems I do. Hopefully if I'm feeling good, then I might try a couple of projects that make sense, and they are medium difficulty problems for me because that's my level at the moment. And then once I've done that, I'll hopefully do a fingerboard session if I feel good, if my elbow still feels good, and then I might do a few circuits. Again, only if I'm feeling good. Like any athlete should, I adjust my training sessions on the hoof depending on how I feel. I might have a plan, but that plan changes depending on how I feel. So anyway, I'll talk to you while I'm climbing and try to kind of explain what I'm doing and hopefully say a few things that are useful. And if you have other things that this brings up that you think about, then maybe I could do another one of these and go through those. So yeah, leave me a comment below if that's the case. So let's warm up. So first thing I'm going to do is just move around the jugs in my trainers. I don't do any other exercises before I get started. I usually just get on the wall. I actually made a whole video about how I warm up. It's really not rocket science. So the goal is just to get the muscles moving, get you physically warm, as in get your heart rate going and actually generate some heat. And to loosen my muscles up. So you can see I was hanging off the wall there, just stretching my tight lats out a bit. And now, sometimes I would do that on the steep board as well, just in my trainers, on the massive jugs. Also, I should say, I know my board well, so it is super easy for me to go round. Super, super easy. So now I think I'll get my rock shoes on. I've got a few circuits on this board that are about maybe Sport 7A in difficulty. I might do this black one, that's about 7A or so. But just gradually building up, and all the time monitoring how I feel. I'm monitoring how I feel in general. Do I feel tired? Do I feel energetic? Do I feel strong? Do I feel weak? How do the conditions feel? How does my injured elbow feel? And all of that, I'm just kind of absorbing all of that information, and that's helping me to think about what I'm going to do next in the main part of the session. It's actually quite warm in here tonight. Normally in December, the temperature in here would be between about +3 degrees and about freezing. In previous years, I used to really love training in extreme cold, just for the conditions, because I have super sweaty fingers. So you can see that my fingers are sweating quite a lot already. I've only done one circuit of the board, so I used to just really like the cold. For some reason, as I've got older, I'm a little bit less tolerant of it than I used to be. I'm not honestly sure why. So I find that 0 is a little bit too cold. I've actually got a dehumidifier in there, which is kind of handy. Our climate is super wet in the winter, super humid, with big fluctuations in temperature and humidity. So it often gets a bit humid in here. So I've got a desiccant dehumidifier which works at low temperatures, but it also heats the air a little bit. So it just brings it from freezing up to around 5 degrees, which is still a temperature I really like to climb at. If I contract my whole hand and then just move my elbow, flexing and extend my elbow, I can just feel a little bit. So I'm constantly doing that, trying to monitor how bad is it, how good is it. It feels pretty good. It feels better than last session, which is great. So I've got a project on the board, which is set. These little crimps here are made by a guy called Euan from Dunoon near Glasgow. They're beautiful holds. I love all these wooden holds on my board, but these ones I just really love these crimps. And a lot of the projects I'm trying for are not big round volumes. they're generally pulling on small edges, so I have to reflect that in my training. So I do like small crimps, and these are lovely. So I have this little project that I've not done yet. It's quite basic, so I might try that tonight if I feel good, but I'm definitely not ready for that yet. So I think what I'm going to get on now is a wood circuit that starts from these two holds. These are holds that Beastmaker made me, and I use some of the bigger ones to make a circuit. I don't know if I can do it straight away. As I say, I'm not in great shape right now, so I'll just work it out. It's a little bit technical, so I'll just have a couple of tries just doing individual moves. I don't want to get pumped doing this, so I'm going to try just a couple of moves, a couple more moves, and then I might try a wee link of, I don't know, 10 moves or something like that. And then maybe later in the session when I come to do my circuits, I might come back to it and try and do a couple of laps of it if I'm feeling good. So let's see. I've got my fan on over there, so hope that's not too distracting. Okay, how do we do this again? Cool. Wow, that was really good. I did not expect to be able to get across the whole of that lower part in one go straight away. So I'm really pleased with that. I actually feel alright just now, which is so encouraging. Like, it's funny, like recovering from injuries. This whole year has been totally broken for me. I'm going to turn that fan off. Aye, so this whole year has been just pretty rubbish, to be honest, from a climbing point of view. Although I have salvaged it. January to April, we were in lockdown. I was training in here, that was fine. Although I have to say that the general disruption to life, you know, not being able to see my other family that live elsewhere, I found that all of that took a bit of a toll, and also dealing with other stuff that we've all had to deal with, like, you know, how am I going to earn a living, things like that. So I was climbing alright. I actually did a project at Rooftown that I'd been trying for a long time, and that made me feel super optimistic. And then actually after the lockdown lifted, I had a load of other life stuff to deal with, and I pretty much stopped training for 2 or 3 months. I was doing barely any climbing. And in August I tried to pick up a bit when I was going up Ben Nevis and trying a really hard trad route, which I eventually did. Which many of you probably saw the video of that. But it was during that period that I got this elbow injury. I actually got a separate one as well in the other elbow, which recovered very quickly. It was only minor. I actually got that on the campus board. And it's very difficult to attribute injuries, but it's possible. One could speculate that I might have got those elbow injuries as a result of just having had a break in training. Breaks in training are often the most risky time, because you just lose fitness, you lose strength, you lose coordination. You come back to training, your mind expects to be able to do the same things to a certain extent, and you're just more vulnerable because you have lost strength. Strength is one of the greatest protectors against injury that you have. So try and hold on to it. Try and avoid breaks in training if you can. You may be aware of a certain climber who has a rather large amount of subscribers on YouTube, who is also a very, very strong climber. And you may have heard him say that he's never had a climbing injury, and that may be coincidence, that may be genetics, or it may be related to the strength. Certainly the scientific evidence all points to the fact that, I know this sounds like a cliche, but the stronger you are, the harder you are to break. So get strong and try and maintain that strength, and that usually stands you in good stead. However, injuries also happen from random accidents that might be seen as being possible to prevent with hindsight, but shit happens. You know, your foot slips, you jar a hold, you lift something awkwardly, you're in a hurry, you're tired, I don't know, anything could happen. So accidents do happen, and so not all injuries can be blamed on something in particular. And often you really don't know whether there is something to blame. It's still super important to try and look for things to attribute your injuries to so that you can correct them, and that often does work. I wrote a whole book about this. Right, anyway, my fingers are sweating again, so I'm not stopping too much. So I find that once I get started with the bouldering, I have to kind of keep going. So maybe what follows, we'll do a wee section where I put the fan on, put some music on, and I might do the second half of this circuit just now and just see how that goes. And then, as I say, I'll come back to it later during the endurance training and try and link it. So here we go. Easy. Oh, that was good. Right, I'm gonna try and get my fingertips nice and cold, and I am actually starting feeling ready to pull on some hard moves. I might get on those crimps. Will I? No. I'm gonna try one other problem first. Quite a tricky one, but it's on bigger holds still. Now I think that'll be a good transition, and then I'll get onto the really small crimps after that. So still in the warm-up process. Excellent. That felt good. Oh God, that felt like hard going there. Really uncoordinated. I think that's actually one of the main things about having had a lot of time off bouldering. It's like on trad, lead shuffly territory, I feel okay, but I'm still kind of uncoordinated in my bouldering. I mean, it's a technical sport. There's no substitute for that sharpness of being doing this all the time. There's also only one way to get it back. So, 2 minutes and I'll have another try. Getting this hold, when you do the jump off this pinch, you catch it with a 3-finger drag. That's just the quickest and easiest way to catch it. And I think the best thing is to then adjust to a half crimp on it, because you need to push down on the jump at the end. So the 3-finger drag is easier to catch, it's easier to do the next move on, but the move after that, it's harder. So on balance, I think I probably need to do the adjustment, but I'm not sure. Might take a couple of tries to experiment. Oh dear. That was a fight. That adjustment just takes so much out of you. Is that the right way? Figure this out. So I might just fiddle about with this move, figure it out a bit before I then go back to the start. I wonder if I can just do it open hand. I'm going to try open hand. Damn it. That last move, you've got to be really pulled in on your foot. I'm still, I don't know if it's obvious, but I'm still lacking in confidence. I probably could have held that if I'd really wanted to. So, let's take a couple of minutes, and then next time I'll really want to. If I get up there again. So obviously I just climbed to the last move of that. So often when I'm working moves on problems, I'll have quite a high work rate, not too long a rest. In part because I'm just mad keen and I just want to get back on and work out the move. And that's fine because you're not really expending a lot of energy while you're just trying one move. That's fine. You still need obviously some rest depending on the difficulty. But because I really want to do that problem, I'm going to give a proper rest. A proper rest in this case, 5 minutes. I'll just see how I feel. But it's of the order of 5 minutes, I would say. I've got keen trying to keep my skin dry. That's why I brought my chalk bag over. I usually keep chalking up, and I'll put my fan on again in a second. And just keep my fingertips nice and dry. Although I've not done a huge amount of climbing, my skin's wearing, just getting sweaty. It's not really wearing down, it's not thin, it's just sweaty. I'm not going to put the dehumidifier on just now. That would normally help a little bit more, but I'll not do that just now because it's really noisy and it'll be even worse audio. Do you know what it is? It's like when you go again with the left hand. I'm just still so weak on my lock. It's better than it was, but I can feel that elbow. It's weak. So we'll try again and get it stronger. Yes! Cool, man. Well, that was a bit of a struggle on that last move, but that was good. Didn't let go. Cool. Really pleased with that. And although I can feel that elbow a bit, I can just feel it ever so slightly less than my last session, the night before last. I kind of have to make a disclosure here, which is that I had the idea of filming this just as I came in to warm up, and as I did, I just kind of felt quite good. I thought, I think I might feel quite good tonight, and the last few sessions I've had on the bouldering wall, I felt progressively better each time, and so I thought maybe I might be able to get on some harder problems. And I suppose that might be partly why it came into my head to actually film this session. I wonder if I had started to warm up and I just felt terrible, would I have filmed this? I'm not, probably, but I'm not honestly sure. That's always a thing I think to keep in mind with stuff that you see online, is that you might be seeing someone's very best day. This is the best session I've had for a wee while. I mean, I'm coming from a low base, I'm injured, so that wouldn't be hard, but still. Now, in general, you know, if you see someone's video from a good climber, they often will be consistently pretty good, but not always. Some climbers are more consistent than others. A big issue for me is conditions. As I say, I have very sweaty hands, and you can see I'm going back and forward to the fan to try and keep my skin dry, and I just had 2 or 3 attempts where I've greased off. And I can just feel the sweat. Like I can hold on to the hold, but it's the sweat and I just ping off. There are some climbers who would say, oh, conditions don't really matter. But then you see them going up a sport route in a video and they'll do like 15 or 20 moves, and then they'll look at their hand, or you see their hand and it's completely bone dry, and you're like, well, yeah, I think I've probably got a few more sweat glands, or a few more active sweat glands than you. So there are individual factors to keep in mind, I think, with what you see online. Anyway, I'm going to stop talking and get on these crimps before my skin gets any worse. And let's see. There's one move in the middle here which is definitely the hardest move, and then the move after it is still hard. So I'm just going to see if I can do this cross move, and if that works out, then maybe we'll try the rest. Yeah. Cool. First try on that move. I must have tried that move about 10 times the night before last, and I couldn't do it. So definitely feeling better, although my skin is also feeling better than the previous night as well. I'm gradually building up skin for indoor climbing. That's excellent. So now let's see if I can Well, I've got two choices. I can either try the top half of that problem and see, just get it wired, or I can just go from the ground. I'm not actually sure what's best. Right, so I've actually not done this problem before. I've never tried it when I've been actually proper fit. But if I could do it, then that would be a good signal that I'm approaching a state of something I would call not injured. Right, let's give it a shot. Yes! Woohoo! Oh, that's so cool. Brilliant. I just didn't let go there. That's great. So chuffed with that. I didn't feel that bad. Do you know, to be honest, I'm beginning to feel that this wasn't really a great night to choose to film this episode. I'm obviously having a good session. You know, I'm progressing. In a sense, my climbing is in a state of flux right now because this injury evidently has just reached a point where I'm beginning to regain my confidence in my movement. Like, I'm actually kind of pulling like snap and not really worrying about it. I don't quite have that hesitation. And I kind of sensed in the previous session that I was possibly approaching that point, but you can never be sure. So I kind of feel like this session is not really representative of normal. I mean, maybe if I'd showed you a shit session, that might be more representative of normal, but maybe it just wouldn't be that good to watch. But maybe just, you know, keep in mind that tonight's session is going better than normal, for me at least. Both my kind of stretch goal projects for the night complete, and I've still got plenty of energy. So I'll have a wee think about what to try next. Oh, I know what I'll try. So I have a model of the crux of my project at Brin Rock, a hard sport project. The crux involves a deep lock off your right hand. And I was actually trying this move the other night. I could not even get close. I could barely even initiate the move. And you go up to this really high undercut, and you're just locking off a really poor foothold. And you have to take the undercut, so it's just like whoosh, walk straight down. And I just couldn't do it. I'm actually just trying to go for this pinch as an intermediate, just to work up to the move, but I couldn't even do that. So maybe let's try a couple of tries on that, and yeah, that'll soon bring things back down to earth reality. Just nowhere. It's just lack of pain. I do feel better than before, and it's the absence of pain in that elbow. Good. That's better. I actually touched it and held it slightly there. Yeah, I'm definitely feeling stronger. Does that mean by the end of March I'll be in quite good shape? I hope so. Maybe even before that. If the trajectory goes in a straight line, but the trajectory of injury recovery rarely goes in a straight line. At the moment I'm making a huge jump forward after a long period of being pretty stagnant and not really making much progress, just feeling pretty poor. Like, I do very little training and that would just hurt, and I'd be like, no, I can't do any more. And now I've just hit that point where I've consolidated and I'm feeling like, oh, I can do a lot more, a lot harder. What will happen now? Will that continue? Will it improve? Will I just hit another point where I stagnate and I can do more training but not full training? One way to find out. I don't think I'm strong enough to do that move, so I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull into it and then just see if I can just do the rest of the problem and see how that feels. Rubbish on that, look up, man. Well, I can do that a bit. So it's just that one move, that lock off, and that's all about that elbow. Later on, I'll do a little bit on the fingerboard, and you'll see just how much weaker that right arm is at the moment. So it's doing surprisingly well, but a huge weak area right now, and that'll take time to change. What will I try now? I think for a wee bonus, I'm going to try one more hard problem, which is on these orange holds. It's quite hard. I have done it a few times, but not very many times. I set it when I was climbing really well, and even then it felt pretty hard. And it's quite technical as well. It's also quite scary. One of the things about this board is that I just can't really fall off from any height because of my ankles. They're pretty stuffed, both of them, particularly the right one. And the last move of this, it's reasonably high, so I try and land and roll, but I can't really land square on my feet, but it's a bit of a jump, so you don't feel super in control. Yes! Oh, excellent. That was really good. That's so funny. Don't know if it was obvious, but me having to open hand with my right hand on the lower part was a lot harder, but I could somehow do the crux jump much easier than before. Why? I don't know. Oh dear. There is nothing quite like the feeling of feeling fit, I must say. And I have missed it while I've been injured. Everyone does. And obviously, like, 99% of why I train is to do hard routes. But there is that one part that is nice about training, which is just to train to feel fit, because feeling fit feels good in its own right. Maybe it's actually unfair to say it's just 1%, it's probably a lot more than that. Because I do really miss it when it's gone, you know. Possibly on top of all the stuff that's going on in the world in the last couple of years, which has not been all that good. The feeling of being unfit, just it's sort of additive together, if you know what I mean, to make you feel just not great. So I spent a lot of time this year not feeling very confident, not feeling very good, feeling like my climbing goals are kind of distant. You know, are they achievable? And, you know, all these things start to go through your mind. I mean, silly things that I feel almost awkward even saying out loud, like, you know, can I still do this? I remember in 2001, or was it? Yeah, 2001, 20 years ago, I was on a trip with my friend Scott Muir and a few other friends, and we were trying to do these hard dry tooling routes in Switzerland. They were hard at the time. They were actually the hardest routes around at the time. Routes like Robert Jasper's route, Vertical Limit. Anyway, we were there for a week, and I was having a really tough time. I'm not a very good ice climber or mixed climber, and so I was struggling. And I was trying Vertical Limit, and I was absolutely nowhere near it. And I just wasn't feeling good. And actually, I remember Scott saying to me, like, oh, you're just not enjoying yourself, are you? And that was actually, I was a little bit taken aback by that. I was like, bloody hell, is it that obvious that I'm having a hard time? I was just not enjoying not being good at it. And I was kind of coming face to face with that fact. And then on the last day, I actually managed to do vertical limit, but it was a real struggle. I think I was on the pitch for about an hour, and it kind of goes up about 10 meters, and then it does this like 45 meter horizontal traverse in a roof, and then goes up into an easier finish. And I was just hanging around for ages and ages. It was ridiculous. I should have fallen off, but I somehow managed to not fall off and just keep resting and carrying on. I got up to the last bolt, and there was this big flake, and I was so pumped that I could hardly hold on to my ice tools. And there's this big flake, and I remember just shoving my hand down the back of it and doing a hand jam. And I was so desperate that my tool fell off my shoulder and I dropped it. And I thought, oh, that's ridiculous. I'm one bolt, like 2 moves literally from the beelie, and I'm going to fail. And I just like hung around and figured out what to do. And I realised that there was just ice above me. So I reached up as high as I could off these hand jams. And I then reached up as far as I could with my tool, placed it in ice, and then I climbed right up my ice axe right to the top. And then from there I could just reach the anchor, clipped the anchor and did the route, which was great. So I went home on a little bit of a high. But I always remember sitting on the bus on the way to the airport, and I was thinking, that was such a struggle. Can I still do this? Like, am I too old? At the time, what age would I have been? 23? That just seems ridiculous. So I'm 43 now, and I feel that feeling of can I still do this a lot less than I did when I was 20 or 30. And the reason I feel that a lot less is because I've gone through many periods of feeling rubbish, either because of injury or accidents or time out of climbing, or just periods where you just don't feel good and you don't really know why. And then you have that moment several months down the line where you do a really hard project, you've come back to fitness and you do a hard route, and it suddenly hits you. You're like, wow, I remember feeling 6 months ago like terrible, like I'll never be able to do this again, and yet here I am. So I've done that so many times that I realise that it's kind of pointless even thinking that thought, and you can nearly always exceed what you've done before. Of course, we all have finite lives. Eventually, our bodies will decline, but it's usually a lot later than you think. I still feel like I've got potential to get better at climbing, and there are so many inputs to climbing performance, so if you're getting worse at one, you can get better at another. Right, my skin is not so good now, so I think I'm going to do a little bit of fingerboard, and then I'll do a bit of endurance. Oh, so much weaker on that arm, I can barely even hang that. That's bad. Just feel, it's like, although it's tennis elbow, I think there's a bit of involvement of the brachial radialis, or maybe it's just weak, but it doesn't feel good, that's for sure. Oh, that's cool. I mean, I was kind of worried that you would see in this session me saying like, oh, I'm injured, I'm not feeling very good, and then actually I'm climbing well, but that's like well below my normal basic strength. Oh, and that's 4-finger open hand, what some people call a chisel grip. Yeah, and I can feel that sorer straight away. It can only handle a little bit, so well, I think I'll actually not even do any more sets of it. I'll just do a few sets of half crimp now. Slightly better on that. I don't know if it's obvious, but I have to turn so I'm almost facing out, like to the side there. As I've stood at the start about to pull on, but I can't even pull on. And then I turned a little bit, and it was a little bit easier on the elbow. Yeah, because in this session, because I've been feeling quite good on the bouldering, I've focused on the harder problems to kind of test myself, which is fine. But because I'm limited in capacity of how much I can actually do because of this elbow, that means it's getting sorer quicker. That's a wee bit better. Oh, so I put my jacket on just to try and warm up a little bit. And then I might try this red circuit, which it's hard, like I'll not do it. I can only really do it when I'm a proper fit, but it will get me pumped. Oh, never got that pinch right. Damn it. That was not bad. Halfway around. Oh, I can just still feel that elbow though on the walks. I'm not going to try that again. Definitely not ready for that, but I'm glad I tried it. That's pretty good, just going halfway around on the first try. So we'll get on that again, I think, in the next session. I definitely think I've got the level to be able to do it if I just have the moves a bit more fresh in my mind, because I've not gone on that for months. Oh, feel like a little bit sore now. Not too much session left, I don't think. Definitely need to bring it down a level at this point. So we'll go on the easier red now after a couple of minutes rest. And I'm not really pumped there, I wasn't really tired. No way I'll get around that again. No way, I'm pumped. Not recovered from the hard circuit. Not to worry, getting pumped is the objective. Stop actually. Shorter session than I would normally have if I was not injured. But I am injured. However, I definitely can't complain. This has been a brilliant session. I'm going to finish it off with a couple of sets of push-ups. Always try and do at least one set at the end of the session. And really I should do a lot more. My triceps are ridiculously weak. One of the great things about being injured is that although you have the decline, which can be catastrophic when you get an injury and your level goes right down, you also quite often have a steep incline on the way back out, so your rate of improvement is quite rapid, something that you don't normally get to experience once you're a very experienced climber and you've built up to a good level, you know, close enough to your potential even. So even if it's just coming back from an injury, the feeling of getting better quickly is really, really good and makes you feel excited, so very, very pleased with that. With this elbow, I'm just stretching it, see how it feels. It's not too bad. I think I'll not do any more exercise, like rehab exercise on it this evening, but tomorrow morning I'll be back on to doing my eccentrics. As many of you will know if you've read my book Make or Break, you'll know that eccentrics are still a relatively favoured exercise. They may not be any better than heavy concentric or isometric exercises. That still goes back and forth in the research. It's not really clear which is best. But at the moment I've still been using eccentrics and they still do appear to be working. And maybe time would have made this injury feel better anyway, but it does appear at least that they are working because I am making progress and I'm coming back towards hard climbing. So yeah, I'll be back to doing them in the morning. I just do them every day really. So let's finish off with a couple of push-ups. Oh, alright, well thanks for joining me on a training session. Hopefully this was interesting. Maybe you could actually suggest, drop me a comment below how I could make it more interesting. You know, maybe I could do more of these in the future if you like, and I can talk about specific things. Anyway, if you did enjoy this video, please do press the like button, and I hope you and your family have a great Christmas, and we'll see you in the next episode.